All right, it is 7:07 on Monday, March 19th, 2018. This is the call to order for the school board meeting. We'll have the approval of the agenda, open forum, the superintendent's report, discussion items including college possible presentation, achievement and integration budget discussion, construction update, bid award approval for elementary school chiller projects, policy development first reading, policies 201, 202, 203, 203.1, and 203.2. School board listening session recap, joint city school board meeting coming up on April 10th. We'll have the consent agenda. On our action agenda, we'll have the contract approval for the Sparks Bargaining Group, approval of the bids for the elementary school chiller projects, the approval of the fiscal 19 achievement and integration budget, communications, transmittals, and adjournment. Is there a motion to approve the agenda? Moved by Ken. Is there a second? Second by Mary. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay, that carries 6-0. Thank you. There is no one here to present for open forum, so we will go into our superintendent's report.
All right. Well, good evening, Chair Waters and members of the board. For my report this evening, I would like to highlight 3 things that have occurred here in the St. Louis Park Public School District over the past week. First, just today, and actually the timing of this couldn't be better, as we have College Possible here this evening to provide a presentation on the services that they provide our students. But this afternoon here at the high school, we had all of our, or many of our students participate in a college and university fair in the field house. And why this is significant is because when we think about our mission and our strategic plans, but specifically our mission, in our mission we talk about offering high quality opportunities for lifelong learning. And in order for students to engage in those opportunities, they must first know what those opportunities are. So we were excited about the turnout from the different colleges and universities today. And I'm excited to hear about our College Possible relationship later this evening. Last Thursday, we had a terrific turnout at the Partners in Education Night at Peter Hobart. What the Partners in Education Night is a great family literacy event, and this event was made possible by a generous donation from the St. Louis Park Schools Foundation. And I would just like to invite everyone out to the next Partners in Education Night event, which will be held on May 24th at 6:30 p.m. at the Lenox Community Center. Lastly, I would like to just speak briefly about an event that occurred last week here in the St. Louis Park Public School District, and for that matter, across the nation. Students from all across the nation participated in the National Walkout event. Here in St. Louis Park, we had approximately 600 students at our high school participate and approximately 500 students at our middle school participate. And our students engaged in a number of activities at the middle school, but most importantly, all of our students had an opportunity to really raise their voice and express their beliefs around the current reality in our society. I would like to provide a special thank you to the City of St. Louis Park and the police and fire departments for their support of our students and schools in safely executing these events. And that concludes my report.
Thank you so much, Superintendent Osai. Now we're going to hear from Magdalena Wells and Kelsey Parsons from College Possible.
Wonderful. Good evening. My name is Magdalena Wells, and I'm the Director of College Access for College Possible Minnesota. It's such an honor to be here with you tonight and to have the opportunity to share with you some of the good news of work that's happening at St. Louis Park High School through your partnership with College Possible. We have been partnering with St. Louis Park High School since the fall of 2007, so that makes 11 years of partnership. And as I mentioned, it's really an honor to get to partner with your staff, with your students, and to bring your vision for college and career readiness to life with the students that we support. So just a few things that I want to cover. One is just a quick background on College Possible. We're a nonprofit organization founded here in Minnesota with the mission of helping low-income students achieve their goal of a college degree. And we do that in partnership with AmeriCorps service members who serve as our coaches in high schools and on college campuses. There's really one fact that undergirds all of our work, and that is that in this country, in this day and age, attaining a college degree has more to do with how much your family earns in income than it does with your academic performance. So we know today that students whose families are in the lowest income quintile graduate and earn a bachelor's degree at a rate of 9%, whereas their highest income peers are earning degrees at almost 9 times that rate. And we know that has nothing to do with students' desire for degrees, their capacity to earn them, their zest for learning, or the contributions they can make to our society, but instead has to do with barriers that exist to students attaining those goals that they have for themselves. And so College Possible exists to partner with students, to partner with families, to partner with schools to make sure that those barriers don't hold students back. So as I've mentioned, we really believe that students are leaders and agents in their own lives and in their communities, and that we need their voices. And we share that vision with St. Louis Park Schools, and so that's why this has been such a good partnership for us for so many years. Just really briefly, the students that join our program, they apply when they're sophomores in high school. They have to have at least a 2.0 GPA and meet our family income guidelines. So the vast majority of our students are eligible for free or reduced price lunch. And we are looking for students who are interested in earning a bachelor's degree, as our curriculum really focuses on that pathway, though in the end about 1/3 of our students first enroll in a community and technical college. During students' junior year, they are focused on building a community among the cohort of students that are with them in College Possible here at St. Louis Park. We have 40 students in our junior cohort this year. That's standard for us. And they are working on goal setting, on relationship building, and chiefly on preparing for the ACT. So over the course of a junior's participation in our program, they take 4 practice ACTs. And historically, we have seen a score increase rate in St. Louis Park Public Schools of 25% from the point at which a student first takes an ACT to the time they last take that exam. So that's really extraordinary growth. In a student's senior year, students are partnering with their coaches and with their peers, again, still to develop and cultivate that sense of community, since we know going to college is a communal activity for many of our students. They are with a group of peers, and they will be with a group of peers when they get to campus. We want them still to be developing those goals, and then we're helping them with hands-on support for applying to college, applying to scholarships, applying for financial aid. Over the course of our time in St. Louis Park Schools, 96% of all students who've participated in our program have earned admission to college. So we're really proud of that. And that certainly is the cumulative effort of not just what we're doing with students, but certainly is a result of the work that teachers and administrators and support staff are doing every single day. And then you may know us. Actually, when we first came to St. Louis Park, we were called Admission Possible. That was our original name. We changed names almost 8 years ago now when we changed our mission. And we're now focused not just on access to college, but on college graduation and persistence. And so students who engage in our program have a coach with them until they graduate from college. And that can include long periods of time where students might be unenrolled or transferring between institutions. We stick with them no matter where they go. So just wanted to share a couple quick facts about our work in recent years in St. Louis Park. You do have a report, members of the board, that puts this in printed detail as well. But our most recent results are from the class of 2017. We had 40 students in that cohort. They saw an average ACT score increase of 25%. 92.5, we'll call that 93, were admitted to college. which is exciting, and 88% of them enrolled in college in the fall of this academic year. That is actually higher than our average across all college possible schools. And already this year, we're seeing some great success. We have 80 students engaged in our programming, juniors and seniors. This year's group of seniors is already beating last year's group, so 98% of them have already been admitted to college, which is wonderful to see. And our juniors have already increased their ACT score by a collective 14%. We expect that number to only keep growing as they take more exams. And we are right in the heart of our student recruitment period right now. So we're gaining interest from students who want to join the program for next year, and we already have 60 sophomores who have started that application. As was mentioned at the beginning, I do have my colleague Kelsey Parsons here. Kelsey has worked with College Possible for 4 years, and she was actually the coach, one of the coaches at the high school back with the class of 2014. And she now serves as the program coordinator, so supervising our coaches who work here during the week. So do want to open it up for any questions that you might have, but most of all, just want to say a huge thanks for allowing us to partner with you and allowing us to be in your school and for the chance to work with your fantastic staff and students.
Do you target any group of students to participate, or is it just whoever wants to do it pretty much?
Yeah, really good question. So our goal is to make sure that every single sophomore in the building knows who we are and knows that we are in our recruitment season, so that every student has the opportunity to decide if they want to apply. Ultimately, though, the students that we select do have to meet the criteria of having at least a 2.0 GPA and having family income under our upper limit. So again, most of our students are eligible for free or reduced price lunch. But within that, it's the students who apply and complete the application and who then commit to participating. It is a robust commitment they're making to come after school twice a week for 2 hours.
You mentioned that there's about a 96% average admission rate and enrollment rate. Do you track what the graduation rate is then for students who go through the project who actually end up graduating from college with a four-year degree?
Yes, great question. Yeah, so our average college graduation rate, and we measure that over 6 years, which is the industry standard, is about 55%. So that is on par with students across all income brackets. So we have essentially eliminated the disparity between students coming from low-income backgrounds. So we are not satisfied with a 55% graduation rate, and we are pouring a lot of our organizational resources right now into ensuring that more of our students who first enroll do complete their degree. But that's where we're at right now.
And I would say 9% to 55% is a pretty great start.
Yeah, thank you.
And that 55%, is that a 4-year or is that 2-year or is that a combination of the two?
That's a good question. So the 55% is students who initially enroll in a bachelor's granting institution and graduate from one, but may have transferred in the meantime. So that 55% does just capture students whose initial enrollment was at a 4-year and who graduate with a 4-year. And so there are additional students on top of that who are earning a credential or a 2-year degree. Yeah.
Which would be another additional great number that you actually could tout.
Yeah.
Because if given no intervention, they may not even go to that 2-year degree or that other route.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to share that as well. Yeah.
We appreciate all the work you do on behalf of our students. Thank you for being here tonight for the update, and we'll hear more results next year. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, and please do be in touch if you ever have questions.
So now we're going to move to the achievement and integration budget discussion with Superintendent Osai.
Good evening, Chair Waters and members of the board. This evening, I will be asking for the board's approval on the Achievement and Integration budget for fiscal year 19. In the board book, you'll see the 2017-2020 Achievement and Integration Plan that you approved last year, and you'll also see the FY19 Achievement and Integration budget for this school year. So what I would like to do is just kind of provide an overview of what the budget entails, and then really talk about what's changed from last year to this year. So as you can see in your materials, the Achievement and Integration budget is an $843,000 budget. The budget is really broken up into three categories: direct student services, professional development, and indirect or administrative costs. So from a direct student services standpoint, the budget we can spend no less than 80% of Achievement and Integration dollars on direct student services. And for us here in St. Louis Park, we're currently spending or projecting to spend 85%. So what that looks like is primarily staff. So as you look at the budget, you'll see some intervention teachers there and other pieces connected to our two goals, Goal 1 and Goal 2, which are both connected to decreasing the gap between Black and white students in reading and math. And something that's changed from last year to this year is that last year you saw in our direct student support portion of the budget our relationship or partnership with the West Metro Education Program. As you all know, earlier this school year, we made a decision to submit a letter of withdrawal from the West Metro Education Program, and we still intend on honoring that letter of intent. So what's different this year is specifically in our budget, we've identified partners that we would like to work with moving forward to continue to work towards that goal. So in the budget, you'll see Hopkins listed, Hopkins Public Schools, Minneapolis Public Schools, and Eden Prairie Public Schools as three potential partners that we'll work with moving forward around direct student services. And what that essentially will look like is, so currently, I'll give you an example. As a part of WEMAP, we participate in the Civil Rights Research Experience. So what the dollars allocated there in that line item could potentially look like is something that the districts that we're going to be looking at partnering with come up with to provide our students a similar experience. Or for example, something else that we would formally do with West Metro Education Program would be Dare to Be Real, which is an anti-racist student leadership program. So Dare to Be Real is not proprietary to the West Metro Education Program. So what we could do with those dollars is work specifically with Dare to Be Real to offer those similar educational opportunities to our students. Under the professional development portion of the budget, so school districts can use up to 20% of this budget for professional development. Here in St. Louis Park, we use about 5% of the budget for professional development. And what we currently have those dollars allocated to are SEEDS. So here in St. Louis Park, we do the SEEDS program. And then as part of that change from last year to this year, we've incorporated some dollars for professional development for staff. So formerly we would get professional development through WEMAP, through their culture collaborative, and then we engaged a little bit in some of their future forward work. So what we've done as a part of this budget for next year is set aside a portion of those dollars so that we can be in partnership with Minneapolis Public Schools or Hopkins Public Schools or Eden Prairie Public Schools to continue to provide our staff professional development in the areas of culturally relevant teaching or racial equity, which is some of the same work that some of the same professional development that we were receiving from the West Metro Education Program. And lastly, as a part of this budget, school districts can use up to 10% for indirect or administrative costs. Here in St. Louis Park Public Schools, we use approximately 9% for indirect or administrative costs. And for us here, that's primarily all connected to our IB coaches. So we've made a choice here to help to fund a portion of our IB coaches through the Achievement and Integration budget. So really the only changes that you'll notice in our Achievement and Integration budget from FY18 and what we're proposing for FY19 is the changes within the relationship around WEMAP, and you'll see more specific language about Eden Prairie, Hopkins Public Schools and Minneapolis Public Schools, but the partnerships with those school districts will still be designed and geared towards accomplishing the goals that we've set in our plan. Are there any questions that you have for me right now regarding the proposed FY19 budget?
No, this is very clear. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, next up on the agenda is our construction update with our Director of Communications, Sarah Thompson.
Always a good night when the technology works just right. Good evening, members of the board, members of the audience. Thank you for being here tonight to hear an update on our learning design in action. We're very excited about our work moving forward after the referendum, and we have some great things to report to you tonight, and we actually have some pretty pictures to show you of work in motion. As I mentioned earlier, previous reports, we have 44 project teams that are currently in various stages of schematic design. And so we call it programming and schematic design. This means we're taking plans, ideas, big ideas that we had before, starting to commit them to paper, starting to actually look at what does that look like in terms of a floor plan? What does that look like in terms of a teacher has a great idea for a classroom that looks like this? How do we actually make that happen? So I'll show you some pictures of that in just a minute. Also wanted to talk to you tonight about what's coming this summer. We have some big things happening across the district already this summer, so that'll be really exciting to see some of the work happen already this summer. We'll have some big machinery on site, lifting air conditioning units and other things like that, so that'll be fun to see, as well as ongoing deferred maintenance, so that's important as well. And then we also will be doing some pilot classrooms, and so we'll show you some things tonight that will explain what we're doing there, what we're looking at. And I have an honored guest who just arrived in the nick of time. I'm good, but I'm not that good. I'm just not quite up to the facility management level. So
yeah, that's my fault. I told him 7:30.
No worries. We'll just see how good my tap shoes are, right? We will talk about communications tonight as well because we are heading into another big bunch of input and feedback in April. So we will be talking about that as well. Are you ready?
Stay with that slide first. Or did you already go over?
I did this. You want to do this?
Okay.
You want to talk about Peter Hobart?
Yeah, I'm
you want
sorry.
You want me to tee it up while you breathe?
No, I
Okay.
got it. I'm sorry.
All right.
Sorry, board. I was late. But we wanted to kind of go over what we're going to be doing in 2018. We have a lot of projects going on, of course, for 2019, but 2018 was one that I think a lot of people are interested in. And the first one that you see here, of course, is Peter Hobart Security Entrance. We are going to be changing that area around so that we will have a secured entrance at Peter Hobart. And the last one then would be the middle school, and of course Cedar Manor when we're move PSI over there. So next one slide would be just kind of give you a perspective of how it's going to look inside. So as you enter from the double doors where you normally enter, there will be another door to the side where you would have to come in when the school is on, and that you have to come in and give them your name and everything else so that you get through the security part. And what you'll see there is the information desk that can view everything from the hallway to the outside. And this is just another view where we're going to have a nice big signage in the back welcoming people to Peter Hobart Elementary School, and then we'll have all new glass on the side area. Yeah.
I assume that glass is going to be bulletproof?
Not this one inside here, but the as you enter, all that will be resistant proof. I guess they don't call it bulletproof anymore. I was reminded that it's resistant proof. It will handle whatever, shooting up to a certain caliber, yeah. Or count. I'm sorry, count. So the next project that we'll be doing, starting in the next couple days, is relocating the district office. As people remember, that we leased a space on 6311 Wayzata Boulevard. We are going to be doing, because of the fact that in our reviews and comments, we told the state that we're going to be doing minimal improvements, so that's what we're going to be doing, is the minimal improvements in order to get us moved over there. So you will see in the floor plans We didn't touch a lot of walls, so everybody's going to have an office for the first time, but that doesn't mean they're going to have an office when they move to the final home at Central. But because of the fact that we want to minimize the construction, everybody will get an office in the new space that we're going to be moving into. Also, we're going to have increased meeting spaces just because the way we laid it out, or the way it was laid out, it will give us more conference room and meeting spaces for that space that we're going to be moving into. And everybody knows it's up to about 4 to 5 years that we'll be in that space until we move to the new home at Central. Yeah.
Tom, is that increased meeting space, is that going to be a possible place where the school board has its meetings?
Based on the city's requirements, you can have meetings there, but we haven't set up a space like this over there, so that would be something we have to talk about some more with the superintendent and everybody else. So this is what it's going to look like. This will be the first floor. We'll have an entryway, a vestibule with a desk in the front. And then we'll also have some, there's where you're going to start seeing the conference rooms and small meeting space. On your, I would say, your right-hand side, that's where HR is going to be located. And then on your left-hand side, a multicultural group will be on that side, plus the meeting space. On the next floor, that floor has an opening to the service road, which is 394 also. You will have the superintendents on your right-hand side and public relations or communications. And then on the bottom side, you will have, at bottom and left side, all the teaching and learning group members. And then the top floor would be Sandy's group, along with some more a conference room, and that's where our break room is going to be located on that top floor. Also, Karen from Children First will be located on that floor. But you can see where the gray part is. Again, because of the way the building was structured and the way we laid it out, that's flex space. And then what I'm saying is that we're not touching it, so we're not going to spend money remodeling something we don't need to remodel. Next, I want to talk about what we have been, or the interior designers have been doing for the last few weeks, and that is to get the mock rooms ready for furniture selection for the following year, and also selecting 2 mock rooms per elementary school so that they can, come fall, kick the tires, look at what they have and so forth. And it's been an interesting experience. We had 43 teachers involved. I'm looking at Katie over here because Katie, would you raise your hand here? She's one of the interior designers that's working with me on this. And we, you know, to say the least, we had a lot of input, so that's what I think people want. And also we had a lot of people saying, you know, what about this, what about that? So we're adding a lot of things to this project. And as you can see, these are the 2 mock rooms that we're going to be building, or are building right now at Cedar Manor. And you're going to see that we have, one of the mock rooms will be a K-2 space, and the other one will be a 3 to 5 space. And this is where the teachers are going to be coming in to pretty much like kick the tires, look at the furniture, look and see what they like, what they don't like. And out of that will come the 6 mock rooms that, or pilot rooms that we're going to be having at the elementary schools. So this is the first start, the Cedar Manor piece. And I think starting this week and next week, the teachers are going to be going over there and start to look at the furniture. Yes?
So my first question would have been, are the teachers going to be able to go sit in their classrooms and teach a classroom so they can understand what it really will feel like with their students there? But since it's at Cedar Manor, that's not going to be possible, correct?
This one is just so that they can look at the furniture, but the space they're going to be getting at each site, that's what our goal is come September 1st of next year when they come back. There will be 2 pilot rooms at Peter Hobart, 2 at Susan Lindgren, 2 at Aquila, and 2 at PSI, that they can actually teach the class, and the teachers can observe and look at, see what works and doesn't work in the new furniture layouts.
They would actually be able to go check out that room and say, I want to teach in this room for 3 periods? And
we are working with the principals on that, yes, they'll be actually looking at that space. I don't know how it's going to be, you know, reassigned, but right now it's assigned classrooms. And I think, Katie, if you can come up here for a second, you can kind of explain more or less how it came to be with the teachers that picked some of these rooms here. This is Katie from Miller Dunwoody.
Real quickly, just explaining your question, we're calling the Cedar Manor site kind of the pilot to the pilots. And what we want to get out of that is having the teachers that are involved. As Tom mentioned, there's a group from each site that's involved. So they're going to go to Cedar Manor. They've already started going there actually this morning. And they're going to look at, we have a wide variety of furniture in each of those rooms. And the goal is for them to pick what we're calling a kit of parts for their locations, for their sites. That way there's consistency amongst schools. So all of this furniture is very flexible, and the goal is to have it be intermixed in each school, but have it be sort of that same language, so it all works together. So as Tom said, there's been a lot of teacher involvement, a lot of student involvement. There's designated groups from each site, and we've had great participation so far.
And I think what I like to do is kind of share with you what each site's going to have then. So like Peter Hobart, there are 2 rooms that they picked out, and one will be a 5th grade classroom and one will be a special ed. And that's how we're going to lay out the furniture initially, and then we're going to just see how the teachers work throughout the next fall, and they can move things around, they can put pods together, things like that, given the furniture they have. But this is where special ed teacher from Aquila wants to know how it works on special ed space. They can go to Peter Hobart, or a 5th grade teacher. So we're really going to try to get everybody involved in all this part of it. So this is the Peter Hobart piece of it. We also have, this is the Aquila. So Aquila picked a 2nd grade and a 4th grade. And we are happy that we have a variety of grades that they can look at. So these are the 2 classrooms at Aquila that we're going to be making as a pilot. Again, if a 2nd grade teacher from Peter Hobart wants to take a look at it, they go them over here. But we do have teachers that are assigned to this, and for the most part, the teachers that are assigned to these are very excited and happy to see something, and they're excited to see how they're going to be teaching next year with the new type of classroom furniture. And the last one that we have a couple more we're showing. Here's the Susan Lindgren, which they're doing kindergarten and then a 5th grade. So again, a wide variety of furniture, but also furniture that can be intermixed and used throughout. We're hoping that with this, people will give us the good and the bad, so that when we start designing for the following year, that's when we're going the following summer, we're going to be doing all the classrooms, upgrading them. Finally, PSI is going to get two rooms. We just don't have the floor plans on that yet, or early childhood, because they're still in the design phase of that. But those will also get, a couple rooms going on. Should I get that? So, last thing before I turn it over is that I do want to let you know that the other projects that are in the books that we're looking at is, of course, the cooling of all the elementary schools and the locker room at the high school. We're going to be revising or upgrading the locker room at the high school, and by doing that, we're going to make sure that, however we design it, we're going to look at the individual person and how we're going to lay out the locker room showers and so forth, so that they're not going to be gang showers anymore. They're going to be individualized. So I just want to let people know that we're working on that piece a lot. So with that, all right. Oh, yes.
I had a question. So the first one was, you said all the classrooms, were we at 80% that we were going to do with this referendum? Or
in the elementary schools, it was all of them. In the middle and high school, it was going to be, I don't have it in front of me, but I think it was 10 and 10 additional, plus whatever we do in remodeling.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
I know that some classrooms have already sort of upgraded furniture kind of on like a one-off basis. Is that, like hokey stools and things like that, are those going to be incorporated into the plan? Or
yes,
okay.
They will. Like we did one for Susan Lindgren just to see how things worked. And there are some good things and some bad things. We made some changes, but yes, that would be part of it.
I'm really happy that you're going and talking with all the teachers and letting them fill their classrooms, because in the other times, I've heard from some of the teachers that if I had a chance to choose my furniture, it would be different. So it's good that they're going to have that input before we go ahead and change them all over.
Yeah, and the only requirement we have is that we do have standards that we want, so put in place. Thank you.
And since no one else is going to talk about it, I think that's great that you're doing that with the locker rooms, taking the initiative to change up the locker rooms a bit so that all can feel more comfortable in their skins.
Yep, and that's the intent.
So the locker room construction starts this summer?
No, that one will not start until the following year, but we're doing the design now of it because of the fact that it's going to take some time for some of the products and some of the things that we do get. Like lockers are 24 weeks lead time, so we want to make sure that we're ready for it when we do the bids in November.
Any other questions while we're at this part?
Thank you.
Okay, and we'd like to just give you an update on the next phase of public input and feedback. There will be 2 community meetings coming up in April, Monday, April 16th at the Middle School Media Center, and Wednesday, April 18th in the high school cafeteria. And this will be a chance for parents, students, community members to take their first look at some of these pictures we've shown you tonight and what's created between now and those meetings, and offer us some feedback, some input in terms of, you said this in the referendum, now I'm seeing this. Help me connect the dots and ask those kind of questions to make sure that we're truly representing what the voters asked for in the referendum. There will also be an online survey that people can look at the presentation, look at the drawings, provide input that way. And we will be doing student focus groups as well. Really important that we have the student voice come forward as we're making these big improvements to our schools. So that'll be coming in April as kind of our next band of input and focus. Any other questions you would have for either me or Tom tonight? All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Tom, I apologize. We were just running hyper efficiently. Thank you.
I know better next time.
That's my fault. I'm sorry. The next item on our agenda is the bid award approval for the elementary school chiller projects.
Yes. Yes, I'd like to just kind of let you know that our first bids came in for this summer's projects, and I'm happy to tell you that it was under our estimate, so we're very happy about that. We would like to award it. It's going to go through Cross Anderson, who are construction managers, and we're going to be using Train for our products, which Train is throughout the district, so we're very happy about that. And I have 2 people here that have done the design. I have the engineer here, John Casella from LKPB, and Pam Anderson from 292 Design. Those 2 are the ones that actually did the design for this. We're going to be installing our chiller at Susan Lindgren. Location will be near the boiler plant or by the hill. At Peter Hobart, it will be around on the roof of the gym area in a boiler plant. And at Cedar Manor, we're going to be putting it closer to the I-169, where there are trees and so forth. And if people can hear the cars, they're not going to hear the chillers because that's a loud noise on that end of it. So we've made some real good locations there. Also at Aquila, the reason why we're not bringing Aquila forward is we're not done with the design yet, but that's just a rooftop unit over the gym to cool the gym. And then by the end of this summer, all the elementary schools should be cooled. And then we will start to work on the bigger projects the following summer.
Will Aquila's chiller on the roof then over the gym, will that bump this up to budget or above budget?
It will bump it up to budget, yes.
To budget. Okay.
Yes.
Does it affect the summer school classes that we'll be having?
What we've requested, and this was about a year ago, and I think I brought it up to the school board at that time, will be, Aquila will be the only one that have the summer school program going on, and the other schools will be completely shut down, which makes the fire department very happy because we're going to be shutting down some major systems like gas lines and power lines. So there will be nobody in the schools while we do this work.
Tom, thank you very much. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is policy development, first reading policies 201, 202, 203, 203.1, and 203.2. These relate to the legal status of the board, the school board officers, the operations of the board procedures, and order of the meeting. And we are scheduling a second reading on these for April 9th. So Cindy, do you have anything you want us specifically to know about these policies?
Nothing too much in detail. A few of them have been a while since the board has acknowledged an annual review. I have no changes of note. I think they're all coming forward as is.
I'd like to look at them in numerical order in case there's any discussion we want to do for each one. So 201 is the legal status of the school board, and we looked at that in 2014. Does anyone have anything that comes to their attention on that one? (202) school board officers. We have an organizing meeting in January where we select a chair, a vice chair, a treasurer, and a clerk. Are there any comments or concerns about this? Ready to move on to the next one?
I just had a quick question to those of you who have gone through the MSBA training for officers. Does this sort of jibe with what your understanding of the jobs are from MSBA?
Yeah, and what I like about MSBA is you can take the training multiple times because there are legislative changes that happen in between, and so that's why it's helpful to have people retake the training, or even if you're maybe just thinking about an officer role, having the training kind of gives you more of a sense about why you'd want to do that. Anyone else want to weigh in on that? Nancy?
Yeah, I'm looking at this, and I know it's our first reading, and I just retook the training, and I want to check because I think there's a way that we may want to say the treasurer or the appointed designee for some of the functions of the treasurer. And I think we might want to check the same thing on the clerk. So let me just pull out the training and see if there's some suggestions for that, because that's how we function, and I think that's the language that I saw.
Jim?
Oh, just in that regard, I just had the training too, and they said if you delegate the clerk or the treasurer powers, they have to be invested in the same person. So I assume we do that. Is like Cindy our person that does that then? Or?
I, along with the clerk that is the officer on the board, prepare your minutes, and I compare my notes to the clerk of the specific year of the notes that they take at the meeting. It's always been that way. I don't think it's in writing anywhere that it's the admin, but that's the way 99% of the school districts that I know of, that's the way they operate.
And Sandy Celine is the designee to help the treasurer for the treasurer functions. They don't have to be the same person. So we can double check what we got there, Jim.
Okay, well, it's my understanding they did officially have to be the same person, but then the treasurer duties could be sub-delegated to someone else. But I possibly have that wrong, but maybe we should double check all that.
I think it's in our organizational meeting in January. I think it is spelled out, if I'm not mistaken, but I will refer to that and also check with the MSBA training that you folks just had to see where we're at with the language that we currently have in this policy. Is that what I hear?
Yes, please. Thank you. Anything else on 202? Okay, moving on to 203, operation of the school board, the governing rules. This was also looked at in 2014. Does anyone have any input on this? Jim?
Oh, I just had a question. I don't see any mention of whether you're free to, talk about something that's not on the agenda ahead of time, or when that's proper and when it's not. Maybe that's just all governed by state law, but I might just be curious to review that whole issue if not put it in the policy.
Cindy?
I think that's covered in the open meeting law, but we can check.
It is my understanding that open meeting law always takes precedence, and that when we are a body with an approved agenda, that's when we take action, and we are bound by open meeting law requirements. So that's why we don't discuss other things that are not on the agenda unless at the time that we're approving the agenda, that's the opportunity to remove something from the agenda or add to it. And sometimes we do that. That's just a standard practice. Anything else, Cindy, that we should note about that?
This is straight off of MSBA's model policy, so I believe that it's not referenced because, for what you just stated, that the open meeting law precludes, open meeting law, state and federal law precludes anything else that we could do, so we're bound to follow that. I believe that's why it's not stated separately here.
Moving on to 203.1, School Board Procedures, Rules of Order. Does anyone, yes, Mary?
In 2C and D, the word that they used here is ensure. I believe that should be ensure. I don't believe we're taking out any policies on anybody in this respect, so.
C and D, right?
Ensure, C and D. And then, forgive me for a grammatical issue here, but we are a group of educators, so on M, I believe that is a majority of the voting members of the school board constitutes a quorum with an S.
Okay, we'll double check that. Thank you. Anyone else have any other inputs? Moving on to 203.2, Order of the Regular School Board Meeting. This is pretty straightforward. This is how St. Louis Park, well, we've had this discussion before. St. Louis Park sets up their agenda, and this is the MSBA protocol, and I think we've adjusted this policy to match
This is
that.
the adjusted policy. MSBA is a little bit different. We call our first meeting the study session. Some people call it other things, work session. We do occasionally have a consent or action on a study session, which is legal. A lot of other districts do not. But this is the typical format that St. Louis Park has adopted. The last time this was reviewed in 2014.
Anyone else?
Since Mary went there on the last one, there's some of these have periods, some of them don't have periods, some of them have space after the period. We just stay consistent one way or another.
Anything else on that one? Okay.
Thank you.
Now we are at the point in our meeting, the school board listening session recap. Jim is going to introduce it, and then Ann has the report.
Yes, Ann, Casey, and I hosted a listening session last Saturday at the middle school. We got fantastic attendance. There were at least 11 community members there. So we had a wonderful turnout. The first issue we talked about was the fact that a lot of them had never heard of a listening session before, so they wonder if there's a way we could advertise better and get the word out. Also, some of them also wondered along with that exactly what a listening session was. It made it sound like we just listen to them and we don't talk. So they were just wondering if we might want to call it something else, like a roundtable discussion or something like that. So, all right. All right, Ann?
Yeah, I'd like to just thank everyone who came that night, or that day. It was a beautiful day, and we had we weren't sure if people were gonna just be outside, but it was a nice turnout and a nice discussion. I just want to kind of give a recap of some of the issues that were brought. We had two parents. I'm sorry, excuse my device. I printed this out and then left it in my printer. Two parents who live in St. Louis Park as residents but have enrolled their children out of the district for elementary school, who are hoping to return to St. Louis Park starting in 7th grade and would like to ensure that their students can participate in the extended Spanish program curriculum at the middle school. And I know they've been in touch with the superintendent and the middle school leadership on that. One parent shared a concern that many residents are leaving St. Louis Park schools because their students aren't being challenged enough and don't have the opportunity to do accelerated coursework in math. Several other parents had echoed these concerns about access to accelerated or advanced courses, and they felt that there may be a lack of transparency around this process. Several parents shared concerns about respect and discipline at St. Louis Park High School, feeling that expectations for student behavior and attendance are too low and that students weren't being held accountable. One parent suggested that the district find other ways to transport middle school and high school students to high school sports practices, since many students are currently driven to practice by other students. And then finally, a parent suggested that, again, that the district is losing too many residents to other schools and districts, and that we should do more to follow up with residents, with families about why they leave, because their leaving causes the districts to lose out on engaged parents and kids and a sense of community. And again, I'd like to thank everyone who came that day. I would like to encourage you all to watch for those listening sessions, because it is a really good opportunity to meet with school board members and, in fact, have a discussion and not just a one-way like it is here at Open Forum. So thank you.
And our next listening session is scheduled for Thursday, May 24th at PSI in the Media Center from 6 to 7 p.m. Any questions from our colleagues about that listening session?
Well, I just want to follow up. So thanks, Jim and Ann, for going. And so, I mean, I think they are great opportunities to have a discussion with folks, and sometimes it's perceived things, sometimes it's actual things, and they do get back to the superintendent and the staff to follow up on, and so we want to make sure we're responsive on those things. So thank you for going and having the discussion. So thank you.
The next item on our agenda is to let the community know we have a tradition of meeting with our colleagues on the City Council. We finally have a date, April 10th from 5:30 to 8:30 at City Hall. We are still working on finalizing an agenda, but I pulled the last 3 years worth of agendas. We've talked about relationship building, facilities, roles regarding convening community conversations, facilities. Southwest Light Rail was a big topic one year, especially when the possible reroute through our stadium was a hot topic. Racial equity has been a discussion. And the housing policy, how do we make sure that there's enough affordable housing in the community, and how that relates to families attending our schools. So Superintendent Osai and I are still working with Mayor Jake Spano and City Manager Tom Harmoning to finalize an agenda, but we will get that posted as soon as it's finalized. But please put April 10th on your calendar. All right, the next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as was listed in your packet? Okay, moved by Mary, second by Jim Beneke. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries 7-0. Next item, action agenda. The first item is the contract approval for the Sparks Bargaining Group. It is recommended that the school board approve the employment agreement between St. Louis Park Public Schools and the Sparks Bargaining Unit for the years 2017 through 19 school years as presented. And Superintendent Osai, do you have any additional information?
Well, I was planning on doing my best Rick Cryer impersonation this evening and trying to summarize the contract, but we are bringing this contract to the board for approval this evening. As you saw in your board packet, there are approximately 167 members in this bargaining group. We were able to come to agreement within the parameters given by the board. So what you'll notice in 17-18, there will be a 10% increase on employees in this bargaining group between steps 1 through 11, and then a 1.5 increase for the top step, which is step 12, for the 17-18 school year. As we move into the 18-19 school year, something notable to mention as it relates to the contract is that we'll be deleting step 1 and deleting a step and renumbering steps 1 through 11. So essentially cutting off step 1 as it existed in 17-18, renumbering 1 through 11 and creating a new step 12 at 1% over the old step of step 11. You'll also notice that there are we're trying to do more around career increments. One of the things that we've recognized as a part of this bargaining group is that there is high turnover, so we're trying to do more to encourage employees to stay longer in these positions. So you'll see some changes as it relates to career increments in the contract as well. And then just lastly, effective July of 2018, the district contribution to dental insurance will increase to $52 a month for single and $90 a month for family coverage.
Any questions on that?
For those that don't know, the Sparks is basically the pairs.
Thank you. Yep, paraprofessionals in the organization.
And they are essential to support our students. Okay, thank you for that update, Superintendent Osai. Is there a motion to approve this contract?
So moved.
Moved by Ken Morrison. Is there a second? Second by Ann Casey. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries 7-0. Okay, now we're on to the approval of the bids for the elementary school chiller projects. It is recommended that the school board approve the bids in the amount of $1,950,000 to Kraus Anderson Train as presented. Is there a motion? Moved by Jim Beneke. Is there a second? Second by Ken Morrison. Any discussion? Okay, I'm just going to make a comment. This is awesome because in September, those rooms can be so hot because the brick has absorbed the heat from the summer the whole summer long. And I recall as we were doing part of our facilities update project, one of our teachers had registered a classroom temperature. It was like 109 degrees in the room. And so this system will help enormously so that kids can actually be comfortable to learn. I'm not going to learn anything at 109 degrees interior, so, all right. All right, so all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries 7-0. Next item is approval of the fiscal 19 achievement and integration budget. It is recommended that the school board approve the fiscal year 19 achievement and integration budget as presented. Is there a motion? Moved by Mary. Is there a second? Second by Ann Casey. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay, that carries 7-0. Now we are on to communications and transmittals, and I know that there are several people who said they had something. Let's see.
I'll start and with one thing, and then I may come back later. But the community ed catalog, as well as the Park and Rec catalog, arrived in my mail since in the last couple of weeks. And I just want to give a shout out for how wonderful the choices are in the community ed catalog. And if you haven't had a chance to sit down and look at it, I would encourage people to do so. Some phenomenal good courses, especially if you're thinking about retirement or health care or wills or trusts. That was the page that struck me as really having wonderful choices.
Anne?
Mine's related, so I asked to go next. So Karen has been doing, we've been hearing Karen talk about Children First assets, and I know she feels like she's talking too much at meetings, so she's not going to do assets anymore. And so I thought, well, I'd like to do something like that, but I'd like to do something different. So I want to highlight some of our SLT core values and kind of highlight some things. And so I was thinking about, you know, what's the first one? Everyone has equal intrinsic worth, and that to me, having been part of the strategic plan team and the team that that worked on these core values, that one speaks very deeply to me. So I wanted to start with that. And I also got the community ed catalog in my mailbox this week, and my daughter went through and found some classes that she wanted. And I also found on the free for all, so free community ed classes, free for all community ed classes. Dare to be real, perspectives versus perceptions, which is something like Aston was talking about earlier when he was talking about the achievement and integration dollars. Continuing the conversation about race and culture, and then introduction to courageous conversations about race. There's 3 chances to take introduction to courageous conversations about race in April and May for free through our community ed department, which is fantastic. And I would encourage anyone who is watching, including anyone who's in this room, to participate in these free conversations that support our core value that our district has. Core value number 1: everyone has equal intrinsic worth. So thank you. They're free for all. It's right here in pink. So thank you, Lisa.
And I'll jump onto that one. And I was just talking to, well, first of all, this is not rigged or set up like this. It's just so coincidence that all this has kind of fallen into place. But I had the opportunity to go on a field trip with YDC, and Daryl Young gave me a call. He works with Lisa Green in that youth enhancement department. And I had an opportunity to go as a chaperone. As on this board, I always offer my chaperone experience for going to California or to Hawaii or to any of those other great places, but Daryl called me up and said, let's go to the Science Museum. So we went to the Science Museum with a bunch of other people, and I had this great experience with these kids, and we went to, they had a great experience, and I had a great experience watching them learn and be mature in an environment with other aged kids that were not mature. And they were respectful. They stood up and they talked their piece. And during a meeting or during a play that they got to experience. And then we went from the play and went into the race exhibit where the kids, if you can see on screen, these are some of the shots that we took as chaperones. Of some of the kids that were in their race exhibits. They had the opportunity to walk around, get educated on test taking, on how things are financially in regard to race and how the disparities are, and have been in the history and how they are today. And it gave them opportunity just to get together and see all these different experiences. So there's a couple of kids with the IDCs, and it was a great experience for me and a great experience for the kids. And Daryl also, mentioned on the calendar, on the catalog, that he said, why don't you look at the catalog? And I was like, well, my kids are in middle school and higher, so there's no reason for us to look at it. He said, yeah, there is. The free things that are educational. So go check it out. So now, Ann mentioned that. So I want to give a shout out to all those, YDC, Daryl Young, and Abby, and Arsenio, and Tammy, and Deontay for and just giving me this wonderful experience with these kids. And you know what? I still offer my expertise on chaperoning if we want to go to an exotic spot again.
Mary.
So last Tuesday, the first, what will hopefully be ongoing, mock trial program for Maslin Uplift occurred at the University of Minnesota Law School. And Maslin Uplift is Legal Institute for Teens, was created this year by St. Louis Park resident and mother of 3 St. Louis Park students, Catherine Allen Halverson. And she created this program to give our middle school students an opportunity to experience life as a trial lawyer and to learn all of the many wonderful, fun things that come with doing that. And so their about a 6-month program culminated in mock trials on Tuesday night at the law school. They were presided over by Hennepin County judges. Catherine had recruited several of her colleagues at Maslin to help coach our students. And this group of kids, a diverse group of students from the middle school, showed up in ties and suits and acted like lawyers for the evening, and then got to enjoy a wonderful reception at the law school. It was such a great night, and anytime you see a 13-year-old boy wearing a 3-piece suit with a tie clip, you know that it is a fantastic event, and our students were just awesome, and I am so grateful to Catherine for bringing this opportunity, and for her, like I said, her colleagues for bringing this opportunity to our students.
Jim?
The high school pretty soon is having a career expo. It'll be on April 18th. And lots of people will come in and talk about their professions. And they are still needing people to volunteer for that. If you receive the high school newsletter, there was a link in there. Not sure if it's on the website or not. Sarah, do you know off the top of your head? Well, if you can't find a link, I'm sure you can contact anyone in the high school administration or the district administration, and I'm sure they can direct you. But they could really use some more people. That'll be on April 18th.
Great. Anyone else? Nancy.
I'm going to also talk about a couple of things in our mission statement. One is that we're going to provide a safe environment, and the other is that we're going to prepare all students to contribute to society. And a part of what happened around those 2 mission statements happened on March 14th, when we had several students at the high school and some at the middle school who participated in society by stating their concerns, using their free speech about school safety and gun violence. And Ann, Casey, and I were at the fire station where some of our high school students walked to, and I was so impressed with the student leadership, the students who organized that, the students who had arranged the speakers, the polite listening and caring and passionate response of our students made me very, very proud. And they were registering to vote because the League of Women Voters was there, so it was, you know, out of an unfortunate need, they really, I thought, stepped up. I want to say on this coming Saturday, which is March 24th, there's also a March for Our Lives, which is a march happening in Washington, D.C., but also happening here at our state capitol, kind of kicked off by the students from Parkland, Florida. And, you know, I anticipate that I will be there, and I suspect that there'll be other people there trying to move us to have safer environments all around.
And one thing I'd like to add about that, I really want to thank the League of Women Voters for stepping up to help. They registered 80 students to vote, and that was organized by Deb Brinkman, Elsie Nisley, who is part of our Kids Voting Project, and then Debbie Blake, who's also part of our Kids Voting Project. So thank you to the League of Women Voters for that. Mary, do you want to talk about the middle school town hall?
Sure. So Karen and I attended the middle school's events, and middle school students had 3 options. They could walk outside, which many of them did. They had not organized they had not had any sort of structure around this, and yet almost 500 11 to 14-year-old students walked outside in the cold, many in t-shirts, and grew silent for 17 minutes. They walked out to Texas Avenue, stood along Texas so that they could be present, more visible in our community, and then turned around and went back to class. It was really impressive, the amount of respect that they showed for what they were doing that day. They also could go to the media center and write letters, or they could come to the field house and ask questions of Karen and me. And as I was going the grammar there, Karen and me as elected officials, and Amy Jackson as the site council president. And we got a couple of dozen questions almost, and they demonstrated that the students were thinking about this, that they were scared, that they were engaged, that they wanted our help to keep them safe. And they were, again, articulate and respectful, and I just could not have been prouder of our students that day, of our community, and for the opportunity to do this job.
Related to the legislature, we can't do as much as we'd like to do without the support of our state officials. And to that end, I was adopted by the Hopkins Legislative Action Committee last week so that I could join my voice with theirs and people from Orono and Wayzata Public Schools lobbying our elected officials related to the formula, safe schools, unfunded mandates, and our elected officials, Cheryl Joachim and Peggy Flanagan, attended. We're very fortunate in St. Louis Park. Our city and school boundaries are contiguous. Other school districts have multiple communities, so they have multiple legislators that they're trying to work with in a very bipartisan fashion. So it was a great opportunity to be with them on Thursday, making sure that our elected officials know we expect them to serve all of us as well as we can with the limited tax dollars. But again, the unfunded mandates are not helpful. The special ed cross subsidy has got to be resolved. The pension issue has got to be resolved. And we do need flexible funding for safe schools. So I was really pleased to be part of that. And on that note, if there's nothing else, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Nancy. Is there a second? Second by Ken Morrison. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? That carries 7-0. We are adjourned at 8:20. Thank you.